Right, shall we start? So last week we looked at some meditations from about 500 BC, Satipatthana. And at that time there were kindness and compassion meditations, which were a big part of the original Buddhism. But the sutras indicate that they existed before Gautama, and he took them on and became part of his system, part of Buddhism. And they were developed later in different ways. So we're going to go ahead about 2,000 years and look at a meditation manual that came out in 1402 that was written by a Tibetan called Tsongkhapa, who founded the Yellow Hat or Gelug branch of Tibetan Buddhism. And that's the one the Dalai Lama is a part of. He wrote a manual which is was called The Graduated Path to Enlightenment, and a big part of that was kindness meditation. So we're going to do the first 6 steps of the kindness part of that graduated path to enlightenment. To begin with, we'll settle with focusing on our breathing for a bit, just to calm the mind down, and then I'll just go through the 6 steps, and I think it'll take about half an hour. So close your eyes and just count 21 breaths. Go. Okay. I don't know about you, what I experienced there was a lot of thoughts in my head and just some numbers. But eventually I settled until I was aware of my breath and my body more and more. So step 1 is called Cultivating Equanimity. So part of the Buddhist, indeed the Stoic version of what flourishing is a very even-handed kindness to everyone, impartially kind to everyone. I'm not sure if that's the flourishing that I'm personally aiming for, but it doesn't matter to me that that's not the final stage that I wish to reach, just that getting closer to it would be better from where I am now. So what I'd like you to do, first of all, is to consider 2 people, say 2 friends, just to limber up with something easy. And what you're going to do is to feel equally friendly or kind to both of them. If you would like, just before we do that, to sort of bring up some feelings of kindness in yourself. And one way you might do that is to think of a puppy or someone or something anyway that elicits feelings of kindness. So just sort of trying to bring up feelings of kindness and friendliness, however that occurs for you. Now imagine two friends, and I'll just give you 10 seconds to feel equally kind to both of them. Go. All right. Now we're going to move on to the more difficult bit. Pick two people you feel differently about. So actually you might not really like one of them, and the other one is a friend. And what I'd like you to do is to feel equally kind to both of them. And to help you in that task, this is exactly what Tsongkhapa said. Consider that no one is intrinsically likeable or unlikable, pleasant or unpleasant, at least not in a consistent way, because everyone is liked by someone and everyone is disliked by someone. And also, friends you have now were once strangers, and the reverse will easily happen in your life as well. So different people will pass through different phases of being liked or disliked by you. So no one is intrinsically unlikable or more likable than someone else. So now pick two people you feel differently about and bring up that feeling of kindness that you have towards puppies or whatever it is that works for you, and then feel equally friendly or kind in this moment to both those people. Go. All right. Now I'll be picking different sorts of people. By the way, you don't have to take part in any of these exercises if you think they're not suitable for you. That's absolutely fine, and then just dip back in if you find an exercise does suit you. So now think of some issue in which you have an opinion. Maybe it was Brexit, Remain versus Leave, or it could be some political issue, or some issue that's discussed with some opinion in which you have an opinion. And if you can identify such an issue. Now consider two people, one of which is on the same side as you, and another person on the other side. Could be a Trump supporter, or someone else. Can be quite difficult. You can make this challenging for yourself. But in this moment, feel equally kind to both of them. Okay. Good. If at any time this feels too challenging, just make it easier for yourself and then build up. I think if you belong to any team in any way, it could be a sports team that you either support or belong to, so you could pick someone on that team or on an opposite team. Well, the team could be as broad as a country, one of your country folk versus someone from another country that country might be in conflict with. Any sort of in-group and out-group you can think of. You pick two people, get that feeling you got with the puppy or the baby or whatever makes you feel kind, and feel equally kind to both of them. Go. Right. Now consider everyone in this room and feel equally kind to everyone in this room, in the sense that you would feel a friendliness, maybe an urge to say hello if you saw them. So equally kind to everyone in the room. Go. Now extend that just to everyone. So wherever you go, whoever you meet, as you walk down the street, you'll just feel equally kind to everybody. Go. All right. So that's step one. Does anybody want to say anything or ask any questions or make any comments before we go on to step two? Yeah.
When we're imagining the people which we meant to be kind, do you, for instance, have like a dialogue in which you tell them, I'm being kind to you? How does it actually work that you are kind to the people that you imagine?
You could imagine a dialogue, but you don't have to. You could. What I do is I get that feeling of kindness. I keep mentioning puppies because whenever I walk down the street and I see a little dog, I feel usually happy and kind towards it, but it's different for different people. So I don't have to have a dialogue with the dog, I just feel something towards it. And so you just have that feeling, and then you imagine meeting someone and having that feeling. And it'll probably go with a tendency to smile, to make contact with them in some way, maybe look at them in a kind way, maybe say hello. But it might be dialogue, but it needn't be. It might just be you wishing them well in your mind as you walk past. Genuinely wishing them well. Anything else? This can be useful if you're dealing with a difficult situation with difficult people. And you need to calm yourself down because it's hard for negative emotions to coexist with kindness. So anger in you, or sadness, or anxiety, and so on, I find dissipates when you feel kindness to that person. Because that person will have a point of view, however unjust or ridiculous you think it is, still from their point of view it makes sense. And, you know, there's probably some reason to how they're thinking, and you can wish them well. I mean, wishing someone well sometimes means they would stop thinking the way they're thinking, because they might be thinking in unproductive ways that is inconsistent with their own flourishing, because of, say, the harm they do other people. So you can wish them well in that way. It doesn't mean you accept any bad things they do to you. Now, we're going to move on to one called the kindness of caregivers, which is a sort of distinctively Tibetan practice. It's often put as the kindness of your mother or your parents, but not everyone has kind mothers and fathers. So I want to broaden it to be a caregiver, and a caregiver fairly broadly construed. So anyone you think over your life has put even a bit of effort into helping you and has been genuinely, truly kind in helping you develop, and you've appreciated that. So that's what I'm talking about, my caregiver. And if that is true of a mother or a father, then that's great. You can use them. The Tibetans phrase it in terms of the mother, and if that works for you, that's fine. And if it doesn't, then think of some other caregiver. So first of all, think of the things that this caregiver has done for you. So how they've sort of gone out of the way or done some tasks which aren't necessarily pleasant themselves. I mean, it could be like changing nappies or putting some effort into teaching you things, putting time into making sure you got things right, or you were happy, you got what you want. So just imagine a few things that this caregiver has done for you. And one thing you could even think about, even if your mother was not a great mother, was the fact that she did carry you in a womb, which was terribly unpleasant, and gave birth to you, which was extremely painful. And to most mothers, they did that quite willingly and happily. So in any case, whoever the caregiver is, think about what they've done for you. Now think what you would like to do, would like to have done, to show your thankfulness, your gratitude for them. Maybe being helpful or compassionate to them, mindful and attentive to them, or helping them achieve some project. Whatever it is, just think how you would like to express your gratitude. Okay. Now, this is where the Tibetan twist comes in. Let me just tell you the Tibetan version of it, and then suggest how you might deal with it, given you don't necessarily have Tibetan beliefs. So the Tibetans believe that we reincarnate, and we've lived countless lives beforehand, and we sort of recirculate on this world and some other worlds. And because this has happened countless times, everyone has been a caregiver for you in the past. So everyone has been your mother, everyone has been your father, everyone has been someone who's helped you. So now imagine a particular person that you know now, and for the Tibetan, they would feel they know that person had been a mother in the past, and therefore they can cultivate a lot of gratitude towards that person for that. Now, I don't believe in reincarnation myself, so that doesn't quite work, and I can see how the practice would be stronger. This is a stronger feeling in me if I did believe in reincarnation and the beliefs that they have. What I can do is I could imagine it was true, and just imagining it is true helps me get some of that feeling. Or the other thing I could imagine, which I think is not quite so powerful, is that person is quite capable of being a caregiver to someone. And so that person has that amount of kindness and sincere kindness in them to which you can at least appreciate. But if you can imagine that they were actually a very caring caregiver in a previous life, that might help elicit some gratitude towards that particular person. So however you wish to approach that, consider a particular person and feel the gratitude towards them you would feel towards a caregiver. Yeah. All right, now pick another person. Imagine they were a really caring caregiver in a previous life. And now that same gratitude you just felt when we started this exercise towards your actual caregiver, feel that towards this other person. Okay. Right. And now everyone in this room feel the same gratitude towards them that you would to a caregiver because they were your caregivers in the past. Okay. Now extend to everyone. So just as you walk out here and whoever you meet, you'll feel this sort of thankfulness and gratitude to them because they were a caregiver in a previous life. Okay. Okay. Any comments or questions anyone wants to make? Now we'll do step 3, swapping self and other. So first of all, imagine a time you did a great act, which was great because you were kind to someone with expecting no reward in return. You did it simply as an act to help the other person. See if you can think of a time you did that, however small the act was. It's giving somebody something. But you didn't do it because you thought you'd get something. You just did it to help that other person. Just imagine that act and focus on how you felt. If nothing concrete comes to mind, you can just imagine such a situation. Now do the converse, where you felt bad about something because you took what you wanted so that someone else wouldn't get it. So you felt bad because you put yourself first in a way that deprived someone else, and you happen to feel bad about that. So try and think of such a time. Could even just be pushing in front of someone, could be minor. Could be reaching for something in a shop and getting it before the other person does. Whatever it is, or just imagine the possibility of it if you can't remember a particular time. Okay. Now, having got those feelings, I want you to consider how there's a sense in which everyone is the same, and they function the same way, in that we all seek happiness and try to avoid suffering. So maybe that thought will help you now if you take a particular person and think about how getting rid of their suffering. Think of a particular instance in which getting rid of their suffering, helping them avoid suffering, was at least as important to you as you avoiding suffering. So it might be letting them get to that shop item before you do. And you say, fine, they'll be happy with that, I would have liked it, but okay. So you avoided them feeling you'd snatched it away. It could be as simple as that, or it could be something bigger than that. Okay. Let's pick a particular person and imagine that. And imagine that their happiness for that particular moment and that particular act was as important to you as your own with respect to whatever that thing is. So the joy you got out of it was their joy, and that was quite enough for you. Good. Now pick another person and think the same thing. Just put their happiness as least as important as yours, and their lack of suffering as least as important as your lack of suffering. Consider a particular situation in which you enact those feelings. An example with my younger son, on Halloween or Easter when he gets lots of sweets and chocolate, I would say you can eat whatever you get on the day, but then whatever's left, you'll go around and give it to homeless people. So I'd then get him to take a chocolate bar, give it to a homeless person. Even though Tenzin wanted it, he would be giving it to someone else. And I say, look at their face. And generally when they see a little boy handing them a chocolate, they're delighted because they know a little boy would really want that chocolate. So that's exchanging self and other, and that's about, the very first exercise was creating some equanimity, cultivating some equanimity for lots of different people. This is to include you in that equanimity, in that impartiality, in the kindness you feel. And it's very similar to, I don't know if you remember the Stoic idea we talked about, where you had concentric circles, where normally you think yourself is sort of, most important, and then maybe sort of immediate family and closest friends are next, and then you go out in circles to all of mankind. And what you're trying to do is to pull those circles in so they all become equally important. So this is trying to cultivate that same feeling. Next exercise is Tung Len, which means giving and taking. So this is step number 4. First, we'll take from ourselves suffering and give to ourselves joy. So what you do is, when you breathe out, imagine blackness coming out of you, which is your suffering. So any anxiety, anger or sadness, any negative emotion like that, negative feeling, breathe it out. And then breathe in a calm joy to replace it with, the feelings that would solve the problems that those negative feelings represent. So breathe out anxiety, sadness, anger, and breathe in calm joy. And imagine that with every breath. A black breath going out, maybe a golden air coming in to fill yourself with a calm joy. Go. All right, and we're moving through these fairly quickly too. So if you like any of these procedures, you can spend some time just doing one procedure for a length of time. Now we're going to give and take with someone else. So choose a particular person you know, maybe someone who's had who's been angry or anxious or sad recently, and then breathe in that negative emotion to take it away from them. You're taking it from them, for them. And then breathe out compassion and kindness, and whatever it is they need to get over their problems, and give that to them. So imagine breathing away their troubles and breathing out joy back to them. Go. Now another person, someone who suffered, been angry, sad, anxious, embarrassed, whatever it is. Breathe that in to take it from them and breathe back joy to give them. Now everyone in this room, because if you think about it, everyone suffers in some way pretty much all the time. There's always something you're anxious about, something you're uncomfortable about, even if just a little bit. Something's not quite right. So breathe in that suffering of everyone in the room and breathe out joy to everyone in the room. Go. Now everyone in the world. All right, and that's Tonglen. Now we're going to do the 3 refuges. What this involves, first of all, so I'll give you the Buddhist version of it, and then I'll do a slightly different version, is first of all you imagine Buddha, and you imagine what he was like. And if you're Buddhist, you're going to believe things about him which are probably roughly true. Although a lot of founders of religions and so on are sort of charlatans and crooks and con men, I tend to think Buddha wasn't myself. I tend to think he probably had many of the qualities that are attributed to him just because of the things that he wrote that seemed very insightful. So you imagine that he was a person who was very calm and he listened to people, so people really feel listened to. They said when he turned to people, he wouldn't just turn his head, he would turn his whole body to give the person the full attention. And he'll be very mindful of people. He would be very compassionate to them. So to the Buddhists, they would imagine him with all those qualities and then find strength in knowing that a person could be like that. So that's the first refuge. And then they'll think of all the people who develop those qualities and find strength in knowing that those people are there. And then the third refuge is they would think about, well, there are methods for developing those qualities, namely, for example, the meditations that we've been doing. And you can find strength in knowing that there are ways of developing those qualities. So what I'd like you to do, part of that is being inspired by the kindness and compassion and so on of other people in terms of the effect that they have on you. So just imagine someone now who's been very kind to you, who's helped you in some way, paid a lot of attention, and just focus on how you felt. Okay, just give you a few seconds to do that. Now remember sometimes someone's very compassionate to you. You are suffering some way, maybe you're ill, you fell over or whatever it was, and you felt that they truly cared and helped you. And just think about how you felt. Now, think of someone who felt joy simply because you were happy. Their joy was your joy, and that was the reason why they were happy. So they shared in your happiness because it was your happiness. They shared in your achievement because it was your achievement. Think about how that person felt good just because you felt good, and focus on how you felt. And now the fourth of these qualities is equanimity. So imagine a time, but remember if you can, when you were angry or upset, and a person there was very calm, and they could help you because they were calm, and that helped you feel understood. Just see if you can remember such a time. They didn't get worked up, they kept calm, they showed equanimity and evenness, and thereby could help you. Okay, so now you can find strength in knowing there are such people with such qualities. Not everyone is perfect, but there are many people out there that have those qualities around you. Now, the final step 6 is very simple. It's considering the reason why you meditate. So now if you just think about the things I said, where you took inspiration and strength from the way you were treated by people because they had the qualities of kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy and equanimity. So now think, that made you feel good. So the reason I want to meditate is to develop those qualities in myself and similar qualities like mindfulness and concentration so that you can help other people. So the point of meditation is that you develop the qualities that are useful for helping others. We practice to help. And that's called bodhicitta. And that's the 6th and final meditation. So just think about that. Decide to meditate to help others. All right. So I spent a few months, a few years ago now, where that was my meditation, those 6 steps. And I found it quite uplifting. It's sort of more, lifts the mood more than, say, breath meditation and the stuff that we did before. And in a Buddhist program, you'll be doing both those sorts of meditation and some others as well, to sort of balance everything out. Any questions or comments? Or experiences anyone wants to say? Yeah.
Yeah, with that gratitude part, which you told us to think about how you would show gratitude towards a caregiver, that's really emotional. I never really thought about the things that I could do to make it more appreciated. Yeah.
Yes.
It actually brought a lot of emotions.
Yes, I had a similar experience. My mother died some years ago. It made me wish I'd done more for her. Yeah. Any other experiences? All right. I will